Hello, everyone. Hello. Debbie. Welcome to Feeding the Community, a look at what it takes to plan menus every day in our kitchens from a local, sustainable, allergen-safe, and nutritional point of view while minimizing environmental impacts. Our food program has evolved over the last 13 years in several different areas. 2 years ago, we implemented Lean Path waste management system in each of our dining halls to weigh pre-consumer waste, helping to reduce our solid waste on campus. This month, we also launched our first post-consumer waste scale at Mission Park Dining. Dining Services introduced Net Nutrition, our online menu system that promotes nutrition and allergen awareness and encourages informed menu choices. We also initiated AllerTrain for dining staff to help manage food allergens and gluten-free choices. Whenever possible, we reached out to local farms because we value our program that promotes sustainable agriculture. For Student Food Committee, we held monthly meetings with students who offered suggestions to improve the dining experience on campus. Lastly, we continue with WRAPS, a food system that uses leftovers from our dining halls to help us feed the surrounding community. All of these systems are now a part of our lives at Williams. They have helped us grow personally and professionally. We care about them because they help us to provide a safe experience for us all. We could not imagine a food program without them. So we encourage you to ask questions at any time. There will also be a question and answer session towards the end as well. And now we'll have each of the panelists introduce themselves. Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Thompson, Campus Executive Chef.
Hi, I'm Chris Moresi. I'm the first cook at Driscoll Dining Hall.
I'm Bob Volpe. I'm the Director of Dining.
I'm Gayle Donohu, Assistant Director for Student Dining.
Fred Ackley, first cook at Whitman's.
Erika Novello, the nutritionist for Dining Services.
I'm Eirann Cohen. I'm a senior.
I'm Tyler Sparks. I'm also a senior, student chair of the dining committee.
So let's begin with our executive chef, Mark. Mark, would you tell us how you feel about our sustainable program and how it's changed over the years, and perhaps what some of the challenges and successes have been?
Absolutely. I got here in 2003, and at that time we had a pretty good program. I came from a major food service company, and the focus wasn't really on local at that time. We did buy local ingredients. However, when I came to Williams, I found a different world. And it's become a way of life out here, and it's been really good. It's been a great learning experience as well. I know Bob Volpe actually had Highland Farms here. It was a farm that was going under, basically, and we thought instead of buying from the major milk producer like Hood or the big guys, Gorillic, and so on, we'd give them a shot, and we continue to use them to this day. We're using roughly 23,000 gallons a year. We also buy ice cream from them, and it works out really well. Another big thing Gayle mentioned was the Lean Path. The Lean Path we started back in 2008, I believe, and that was a good opportunity too. We had a chef's team put together, Council of Chefs we call it, and there were some managers involved in that as well. And what we were doing was we were taking the post-consumer waste and weighing that on all occasions. We formed a baseline, and all the employees were encouraged to weigh and throw their compost or the wasted food into a barrel. And then we tracked that, and then it went line by line, and we basically ended up having a meeting weekly to shorten this up, and we would discuss different ways to save product. I can give you a good for instance right off the bat. I think it was down at Mission Park, and Marsha Williams was the cook. And she had her tray of waste, and she was going to weigh it. And she looked at that tray of waste. And she said, geez, I could have cut more off that, you know, and I think the item was scallions at that time. And that was just a small example of the awareness this program creates. It was really a good foundation. In our Council of Chefs as well, we actually started a reward for the person that was coming up with the best ideas on the waste program. And I know in catering they came up with some unique ideas to utilize product that may have been left over. Product totally fine that's held in the proper temperature and so on and so forth, but we were utilizing it to make sure that product was extended out further. Again, it was creating a really good awareness, and we'd report to Bob on a weekly basis what we were doing on that line as well. And it's just been a great program. I can't say enough about it. A couple of other things too as well. When we seek a prime vendor, we do that for safety reasons in some cases. We need to ensure your food source is safe. That's our #1 goal at Williams College. And we also take into account, though, on how they're doing with the sustainable side as well. That becomes a big part of it. Zilka Center is involved in the choice as well. And we go through different criteria. The other part that's been formed by Zilka Center too is the Real Food Guide, and they've done an excellent job on that. We started out with our own report. They came up with another report that had 16 different criteria, basically. And what they did was line up the items. A group of students actually got involved. They went through our storerooms, lined the product up. These are the attributes that went to that product, and then it was put in a guide for ecological, social values, the whole ball of wax, and it worked out really well. I've seen this program grow unbelievable, and we continue to grow. Students are a great part of it, and we look forward to continuing it.
Thank you, Mark. Chris, could you give us your perspective on the sustainable program as a cook at Williams?
Well, the sustainable part that I involved in, I mean, we deal with purchasing food and making stuff from local farms. We deal working with Bill Stinson from Peace Valley Farm. We have Side Hill yogurt that we purchase from High Lawn, as Mark talked about. We have some milk we buy from there. We also buy our half and half, and sometimes butter for special dinners. Black River also is a nice company that we work with. They have Maple Brook Farms feta, Nitty Gritty Grains. We have dealt with some grass-fed beef from them. I believe Presky is pretty much all their burgers now are grass-fed beef. Paradise Farms is another local company that we deal with. We get all our apples from them, apple cider, and he also has peaches and nectarines and different fruits that we source from them. There's a couple other farms that we've done special dinners with. We have these great 150-mile dinners, which when we first did, it took us weeks and weeks to actually put together because it was actually a challenge for us. And now we do them all the time. It's actually a lot easier. You know, the goal was to find vendors within 150 miles and get all our products from those vendors, and it would be within that range. So it was some of the things that we were able to get from, or we got pork from Flying Pigs Farm. I believe at Driscoll we had pork lines that they did for us. They're actually kind of have a trade going on with them. They actually pick up all our fry grease from us, and they actually use that as fuel, which is a nice sustainable part to our campus, because when they deliver to our campus, they're actually running on our fry later oil that we used and discarded. Right. But as far as when I started here, you know, as Mark said, we've had a couple farms that we worked with, and it's just grown and grown. I mean, we've had Berlin's Best that we do lettuce with, and I'm sure there's many farms that I missed, and there's a lot others, but it's been a great learning for the staff and whatnot. I think one of the biggest challenges, though, that we do face sometimes is when we're doing large scales of dinners, and, you know, sometimes, you know, we need like 500 pounds of potatoes, and we work with the local farmers to set us aside those potatoes when we have like a special dinner that we all do campus round, and it works out pretty good.
Wonderful. Bob, would you like to share your perspective from the director's view?
Thanks.
Before I go to Fred?
Thanks, Gail.
Yeah.
So I'm here by default, but I'll do my best. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Tyler Sparks and to Eirann Cohen for being on our panel, because as Chef Mark said, our real motivation comes from our students. We wouldn't be doing what we do right now with sustainability had it not been for the encouragement that we get. But I want to also give you a snapshot, knowing that there are some folks out here that probably like technology more than I do, but this whole thing with Lean Path is quite amazing. It had to require us to put data drop lines in all the kitchens. So if you can imagine a scale, each one of the kitchens has a scale. And that scale is set so that it has a terminal that actually connects and goes all the way back into my computer. So I can actually see what things are being weighed, and what things are being wasted, what things are being composted, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty fascinating. I actually saw this in Chicago 6 years ago and was pleased that we were able to bring it here to Williams 4 years later. So all these smart metrics are showing us some great things. They're showing us, for example, where we are overproducing. Now we've been able to connect it into our Mission Park Dining Hall as a pilot. We're actually the first in the country to pilot student waste, which will be a fascinating thing for us to be able to study. So, you know, I always like to think of the 4 real important strategic imperatives. One being sustainability, and one of the others really being a good steward. So if we are taking some of those dollars saved from better management of waste, either through pre-consumer or through post-consumer, those dollars saved can actually go into being more sustainable. So what does that mean? And by the way, the other 2 strategic imperatives are building relationships and really being smart about our diversity. So getting back to the part about what does a dollar mean? For every dollar we spend on food, about 20 cents right now is being spent somehow connected with our local environment. And we spend about $3 million a year total on our food basket. So quickly, we're spending over $500,000 locally. And some would say, geez, can't we do more than that? We certainly can, but the limitations that the chefs will talk about are around us. I'm just encouraged that we have smart tools in place that are going to allow us to grow and advance our program.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Fred, I believe the Lean Path management system was first introduced in the Moresi unit, which you are in charge of. Could you tell us what your experience on a day-to-day level has been like with the scales?
Certainly. Yeah. Lean Path came to us a few years ago, and Moresi was chosen to be, you know, the model to start this program. And of course, with any change, there's a lot of questions and fears. And when we mentioned to our staff that we were going to start recording all of our pre-consumer waste, you know, you have to understand that a lot of the people in dining have been here for years, and they've had the same habits for years. And over the course of the time I've been at the college, we've run different programs for our training in the summer, where we have cross-training programs. And it's brought an awareness to the chefs that A lot of people, though they've been doing the same thing, it may not have been the right thing for the past, 15, 20 years. So when we make them aware that they're cutting too much celery, or they're cutting too much from an onion, that all that product comes in the back door, does not come in for free. And they wouldn't do that at home, why would they do it at Williams College? The idea to be the best steward possible for Williams College with the product that we use had to be really put onto the staff. And they all adapted well to that. Everyone that went through cross-training enjoyed what they learned. They walked away with a new awareness of it, and then enter Lean Path. So as people are preparing products in the kitchens on a daily basis, you can imagine if you're cooking something at home for your family, the amount of waste that you might get from preparing a meal. Well, when you're doing 600 people for a meal, you can imagine the large amount of waste that you have. So what we started to do was everyone took a little compost bucket to their station and actually filled that bucket with as little as they could. But by starting this program, of course, everyone balked in the beginning. How am I going to find time in my busy schedule to be able to take that to the scale, weigh it, and then get back to work without, losing my time? And we were assured by the trainers that it was only a matter of minutes. It's a very complete computerized system. You enter your name, you put what pan you're using, and it does all the work, even takes a picture of the product that you're weighing, so that you're recording every bit of your waste. And it didn't take long at all for people to want to run to that scale, because now we're bringing a new awareness to them. And that's when Chef Mark talked about the creativity part of it. Everyone, I remember catering came up with some great ideas of making desserts out of, some of the desserts that weren't being used for the day. And puddings were being made out of some things that normally would have been passed through the system. And the greatest thing about Net Nutrition, Lean Path, is that it affords us the ability to be able to be more sustainable. I remember when Bob Volpe introduced this program, also brought in a local rendering facility that facilitates for farmers in New York State. And on one side of the meeting, we were learning about Lean Path, and on the other side of the meeting, we were learning about foods that we were that we could make available to us that were going to be processed for the farmers. And at the end of the meeting, I said to Bob, I don't get this, what's going on here, because how are we going to be able to afford Lean Path and still be able to afford to get these products? And Bob stated that by getting Lean Path, that's what was going to make us be able to afford these products. And certainly, the more money we save in our waste, the more we're able to buy local products, because local products are more expensive, and we require an additional bit of help for that. But it's brought a total awareness to the staff. Our numbers in waste have gone down considerably. We monitor it weekly. We have a meeting weekly. We have wonderful graphs that are brought to us showing us exactly where our waste is. So everyone has an ability to look at this, talk about it, and share thoughts about it. And there is that reward program. Every once in a while, somebody will jump with joy that they just won a Dunkin' Donuts card. And that's a big thing, It's any little thing like that is enormous. So the staff is owning this program now. I don't think they would even consider working without it. No one passes by the Lean Path scales anymore. The people want to have their name on that Lean Path list. So it's worked out as a real positive asset for the college.
Thank you, Fred. Now I'm going to go over to Eirann. And Eirann, would you tell us where your sustainable values come from and how you feel about our sustainable program on campus?
Sure. I guess my interest in sustainable food began when I was pretty young. My family had a really large garden in our backyard, and we basically didn't ever buy produce. We would just go out to the backyard and harvest whatever was available, and then make a meal from that. And I've moved a lot throughout my life, but I really do hold that memory pretty close. And so wherever I go, I try to sort of recreate that experience as best as I can. And that's how I got into sustainable food and agriculture at Williams. When I got here as a freshman, there was really no student group that I knew about that was focused on promoting more sustainable food options in the dining hall, or raising awareness about that sort of thing on campus, besides the growers, which I'm also involved in. And Log Lunch is also a really big part of my life, and that was there. But so my freshman year, I guess I really got into it with the help of Jacob Adelson, and we helped start the group Real Food Williams on campus, which is actually, we began as part of a national organization called the Real Food Challenge, and we've since kind of transitioned away from that and become sort of a more independent group on campus. But right away, Dining Services was really, really receptive to the student effort, which was really exciting to see. We met with Bob Wolby a few times that year, and we were just met with a lot of excitement. And he, as he said earlier, he really emphasized that this movement is best started, from the students, which is a really encouraging thing that I hope spreads more throughout the campus. Because while we have these groups now and there's lots of excitement about local food and sustainable food, I think it's hard to tell how widely spread it is outside of my circles. So I hope that begins to spread more. And since then, I've been really happy to see, more local options in the dining halls. Dining Services is really supporting some pretty neat local food and agriculture, like establishments, I guess, of all different sorts. And I think also events like the 150-mile food days and the harvest dinners and things like that are great, and I hope that those continue to become a tradition, and maybe more events like that can be established, because I think those are really good in promoting not just local food options, but a sort of more holistic way of looking at feeding the campus in a way that's sustainable.
Thank you. Tyler, before I get to the Student Food Committee, can you tell us about your favorite sustainable food on campus?
Yeah, I really like the grass-fed beef in Moresi. I like to cook my own meals because I can basically control what I'm putting in it. So I'll go to Wild Oats and get the nice grass-fed beef, but I basically can go to Moresi and they'll cook it for me for almost cheaper than I can get it myself. So I go there a lot. It's really good. And also it's pretty neat because I think there's like $26,000 that went into getting these grass-fed beef at Moresi, and it was just this year. I think it's pretty cool that we go to a school where that happens.
Absolutely. So you're the chair of our Student Food Committee for Dining Service, and can you tell us what motivated you to want to join the Dining Services team?
Yeah, so my freshman year at Williams, I really like boneless buffalo chicken. It's my favorite food. And I had expressed how it was pretty awful that we didn't have it at college. I was like really excited and it wasn't there. And I probably said to a couple people, but I didn't really seek out, saying we need it here. I didn't go to the food committee. I didn't even know it existed. And like probably 3 or 4 weeks later, after kind of talking to a couple people, I got an email, I believe it was from Bob, that said, we've heard that you really like boneless buffalo chicken. We're going to introduce it at Snack Bar, and we want you to be like one of the first to try it. And I thought that was awesome. So of course I tried it. It's really good. It was just, it happened almost immediately, and I didn't even try to make it happen. I guess I talked to someone who brought it up at the food committee meeting. So I guess as a freshman I applied to be on the dining services committee, and I've been the student chair for the past 3 years. It's been a great experience.
You mentioned to me earlier that you love the way that it was really easy to make change in dining services. Getting involved was quick and fast. And also you were involved with the opening of the Lee After Dark program. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah.
And what
I'll first
you
talk
enjoyed
about
so much?
I'll first talk about how easy it is to make change.
Yeah.
It's like being on the dining services committee is the most awesome thing because, I mean, if you're very selfish, you could just basically make the food whatever you want because you'll go in and be like, I would like bananas at Moresi, and next week there's, you know, new bananas, or like, I remember my sophomore year, someone said they wanted hot chocolate in Moresi, so I went and talked to Chris Abiasing, who is now director of dining at Notre Dame, and immediately he was like, well, let's just look online. He found a hot chocolate machine for more money than I could have ever imagined spending on a hot chocolate machine, but he was like, he ordered it right there. It was literally like so I said someone wanted hot chocolate, they got the machine, and now there's hot chocolate in Moresi. But yeah, it's pretty great. You know, I go to College Council a lot and hear from them. I'll talk with my friends, but every month I'll come with ideas. You know, I have this whole Word document in my computer of, you know, what people have said they wanted, and it's pretty incredible if, you know, that you want Nutella and Driscoll, it shows up, or like a new toaster. It's pretty awesome. I guess say the best example of that is the opening of Lee After Dark. So I came on as student chair my sophomore year, and I didn't really know what that entailed, but I ended up going to College Council with Bob and Chris, and we asked them what are like the most important things that we could do this year, and we heard two things: adjusting the meal plan and having food after 1 a.m. On weekends. And I like very vividly remember walking out of that meeting with Bob and Chris and saying, you know, what can we realistically do? And we said, well, let's tackle this food after 1 a.m. So this is beginning of my sophomore year. By winter study, we had opened Lee After Dark, which is a late night food option. They serve breakfast food until 2 a.m. on weekends. And it's pretty incredible that that happened in a 3 or 4 month span. I was meeting with Chris weekly. You know, I mean, like so many people had their hands in this, but you know, it was really great there was, you know, more jobs on campus, more food after 2 a.m., which is pretty critical for a college campus. You know, I think a lot of students really wanted that. It was also great because we were worried about cannibalizing sales from Whitman's and 82 Grill, and we ended up actually seeing those stay about the same, but Lee After Dark blew up. So basically more people were just eating food. No
doubt.
And I mean, they have honey bun pancakes, so who can complain? But yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome that, you know, from coming on in September of my sophomore year to January, opening this huge project. I see Steve Class is here, and he had a huge hand in that. You know, I still eat at Whitman's, which people are always surprised by, but you can if you stop into Moresi at any late night, like there's a huge line at Lee After Dark.
Thank you. Before we get to Erika, because there's a bit to talk about for net nutrition, I want to go back to Chef Mark. And Chef Mark, can you tell us how you feel about the Student Food Committee and its value to you as an executive chef on campus?
Absolutely. It's a really good opportunity to get suggestions from the students. We only have probably 8-10 members on it. However, I suggest that you really get in touch with these members and try to voice your opinion as well. We really need as many suggestions as we can get, and we're here to make your experience better, and that's the bottom line. So get involved and know who your food service committee reps are.
Thanks, Mark. And Chris, can you tell us about your experience with Student Food Committee and how that's influenced your program at Driscoll?
I think going back, you know, kind of to what Tyler was saying, basically they started the food committee some years ago, and I just started being on it, I think, the past couple of years, and I've missed the past couple of meetings. I apologize, by the way. But we've had some people out. Basically, I think it's a great voice for the kids. I mean, they come forward, they speak to Tyler and whoever else, and they kind of tell us, you know, give us feedback on how we're doing, you know, if they like this or don't like that, based on the menus that we create. And it's great for us to have a, you know, it's kind of like a cheering squad per se, you know, either we're doing good or we're doing bad. Or change this or change that, and we adapt to the changes and pretty much give the students whatever they want and need.
And Bob, can you tell us how many years ago that Student Food Committee was started? Is that something you started here as the director, or does that predate your tenure? And how has it evolved over the years?
I would say that I'm not sure when it started. I'm sure Jim, my predecessor, had something similar, but what is different about the committee as it's formed today, Chef Mark mentioned there are 8 members. He meant 8 student members. I mean, we actually have every manager and every chef attend a dinner once a month at one of the dining halls. And that's pretty remarkable to think that the dedication of this council of chefs and management team, the dedication and willingness to be there, to listen to students, knowing that, you know, it's late in the day, we've already worked an 8-hour day, but this is an important time because we know how busy you've been all day. And just having that dialogue around the dinner table has done some fabulous things for us.
And Fred, from your perspective, for Student Food Committee?
Student Food Committee? I always look forward to the Student Food Committee meetings. It's always interesting to see who's going to show up, where it's going to be. I'm always delighted when it's at our unit because, you know, the students usually come in, that's their dinner time as well. They'll come in with their plate full. And of course, you know, when you go to the unit, you're like, boy, that stuff looks pretty good, you know? So I think Tyler kind of really led that whole selfish thing along pretty well because I think sometimes people try to keep these things a secret. As you notice, Tyler does have goldfish in every unit on campus. And when the big push came, you know, a couple of years ago to start eliminating some of the burgers at Whitman's, thankfully Tyler spoke right up and said, you know, this is my staple. I have to have my hamburger. And so they, you know, we get a lot of criticism, both constructive and otherwise, and we take it all as constructive. We get a lot of great feedback from the students. Sometimes there's a lot of involvement. Sometimes, you know, depending on their schedules, there's, you know, minimal involvement. But we always walk away learning something about the students, and hopefully they learn something about what makes us operate as well. We had a particularly interesting meeting a few months ago. A student that I hadn't seen or met before, and I can't remember his name, I have it written down, listened to the whole meeting and actually questioned, was the first time I'd ever heard a question come from a student about where does the money come from? Because as you can tell from Tyler's remarks, when students ask for something here, the priority of dining is the students. And we want to do everything we can to accommodate the students' desires. And we do it quickly. And this one student really got a handle on this. It's like, you do all these things for us. When we ask for things, there's like, you know, it's immediate. You just do it. Where does it come from? So I think that's important to know as well when you're thinking of things you have requests for, that, you know, it's got to be figured in there somehow into that money that's budgeted, you know, for dining. But it happens. We make it happen. It's just good to know that that awareness is on both sides. But it's really great to go to these student food committee meetings and get the input and make the changes and get feedback from the changes.
Thank you, Fred. Now we're going to turn to Erika, our nutritionist. And Erika, I would like to know, what do you think about Net Nutrition, our brand new program? And would you tell us your approach to ensure that dining services meets the nutritional needs of the campus? How do you go about it, and what do you look for?
Sure. First, I'll talk about kind of my role in menu planning, and then I'll talk about how I view Net Nutrition and what the benefits of it are. So basically what happens is the managers and first cooks will put together their menus for a semester, and they'll either hand them in to me or let me know that they've finished. And then what I do is I look at each individual item that's on the menu. I'll go to each recipe and look through all the items. And what I'm looking for is, are all of the allergens associated with a recipe or an item accounted for? And why I continually do this is products can continually change. So this is something that needs to be updated and really needs to be someone needs to be on top of. And so that's one of the things that I look for is, are all the allergens accounted for? Are the ingredients that are in each recipe, are those currently what's being used? Like I said, you know, recipe items can change. And so that's one thing that I'm looking for. And also, as I'm looking at these individual items, I'm looking for, is the nutritional information correct? Because in FSS, it generates nutrition information for each item and each recipe. And so I look at a particular recipe and I look to see if the calories and the protein, carbohydrates, those are all correct. And so after I've kind of looked at the smaller details of each of the items and each of the recipes, I then take a look at each day as a whole, and I look for, is it balanced? Are there options for the different groups? For example, is there options for the students who are gluten-free? And are there options for students who are vegan? And when I look for are there options, I'm not just looking at, is there rice and vegetables, which are both technically gluten-free and vegan, but are there substantial options? Is there protein for each of these? And if someone sat down to eat this meal, would it fill them up? Would it meet their nutritional needs? And so I really try to look out for those groups and make sure that they are getting a balanced meal, but also thinking of the community as a whole. And are there healthy options for everyone? And then also taking into account that maybe there are some individuals who are less into healthy eating, and are there options for them as well? Because I mean, have to be kind of realistic when you come into with such a diverse community. And so I kind of look for all of those things when I'm looking over a menu, and then I give my feedback to the managers and the first cooks. And so that's kind of my role in the menu planning. And as far as Net Nutrition is a great program. And why it's great is because you have all of the information at your fingertips. You can go into each dining hall, see what the menu is for the day, and you can click on any of the recipes and you get all of the nutritional information as well as the ingredients. So you're made very much aware of what you're putting into your body, both from a nutritional standpoint and particularly if you have allergies or sensitivities and you just want to be aware of the ingredients that are in the item, you have the ability to see that with Net Nutrition. And so it's a really great tool that we have here.
Thank you. Another question for you, Erika. You've introduced numerous vegan and vegetarian recipes recently to our food management system. How receptive have staff been with these new changes, and do you have some favorite recipes that we should be looking for the new spring cycle?
Staff have been very receptive to the recipes that I've input, and I've gotten some really good feedback, explaining what recipes different individuals are excited about and what recipes can be easily incorporated into a menu cycle. But I've also gotten the feedback of, well, this recipe wouldn't really work on a production standpoint. And that's something that that's not necessarily my expertise. I'm not a chef. And so it's great to get that feedback as well, so that I know for the future as I'm looking for new recipes, because I love looking for new recipes. and to know, okay, maybe this is more feasible, and then I can get that feedback from the chef. So they've been very receptive, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback. And as far as favorites, it's hard to pick a favorite when I've chosen all of them as something that I would eat, but some kind of come to mind off the bat. There's a Middle Eastern eggplant dish that's going to be featured at Driscoll, which I'm looking forward to. And there's different breakfast items. There's a carrot coconut pancake, which is going to be featured at Whitman's. And there's a sloppy mushroom sandwich, which is a vegan spin on a Sloppy Joe, and that's going to be featured at Mission. So all of the dining halls are incorporating these recipes that I put into the system, and I'm looking forward to see how the students feel about them.
Great. Eirann, I'd like to ask you, as a student, how do you feel about net nutrition from a student's perspective?
Personally, I don't use net nutrition. I do go online to check menus at different dining halls, but I never really look at the nutritional facts, to be honest.
Now I'll say this: net nutrition actually prints out labels that you see every day in the dining halls. Have they helped you with your meal choices?
Yeah, I think so. I have celiac, so I can't eat gluten. So it really helps me that different dishes are labeled gluten-free. I can imagine vegetarians would be really aided by the vegetarian label as well. So that is helpful. We kind of talked about this the other day, Gayle, but I do kind of miss, like, my freshman year, you could go online and check the menu, and it would just be like a list of the different dishes, and they'd be like described in really like kind of fancy ways, and it was just kind of cute. And that's kind of gone now that we have net nutrition. You go into the dining hall and it's kind of like mechanical almost. You just go down the line and it's like very formulaic, like eggplant sandwich GF or whatever. I mean, so that's something I don't love about it, but I do understand that it's probably much easier to get those labels printed and things like that.
And that actually speaks to food safety, moreover. And so I'd like to ask Chris, can you tell us how you go about preparing food in a safe way for the students so that you're not cross-contacting allergens from one location to another?
Well, going back, I'd like to talk about, kind of like the history of how we all started with net nutrition. We formed this great task force, right. With Bob brought up that we could purchase this piece for Seaboard for net nutrition, and with you and Erika and a whole bunch of other people heading the way, we came up with weeding out through recipes and picking out. We had like 5 chicken farms in our system, weeding out, picking out what ones. Right. I think some of the parts that worked out great is as a chef now, we're able to go into the system, print out a recipe, and we know that chicken farm has gluten, egg, milk, or whatnot, whatever the system prints out. But as far as preparing an allergy-free meal, we have a system online that we developed also that the students can pick. They go online and they pick whether they want, brown rice or all the different options they get, and we get it sent to, whether it be me, Fred, or David, the first cook, and the second cooks, and the managers, I think all receive the email. Mm-hmm. And basically, they tell us the time that they're going to pick it up and what dining hall. So basically, we prepared a meal, and we have a side table at Driscoll. We clean the table, sanitize it, and get it ready for an allergy-free meal. And basically, that involves, each dining hall has a color-coded allergy-free kit, which is basically, they're all purple. So it's like the allergy-free color. Everybody has a purple cutting board, knife, utensils to make that meal. And basically, when the student comes through, we prepare that meal in the allergy-free zone away from everything else. So there's no cross-contamination between the meal that's going on and whatnot. Usually, I take it upon myself, or the second cook, whoever's on at that time, and we prepare the meal have it all wrapped for them. So when they come through, it's almost like a seamless transition. They walk through the line and we hand them the meal. Some of the kids in the past have had some cross-contact issues where they can't touch the silverware, the plates, the cups. So we sometimes will take those and run them through the machine separately, wrap them in saran wrap and keep them to the side for when they come in. So basically, it's not, when they come through the line, it's just handing it to them. It's a pretty, and we've had a pretty much great success with that. I know Fred's had a kid that was very allergic to things that we know, and we never had an issue with that. And I've had a couple kids. And some of the kids we have now, basically, you know, they have their own refrigerators. You know, we stock it, and it's they come in, they grab their stuff. Sometimes you don't even know they're there. Some just grab their stuff and go on their merry way and say, hey, could you get me more of this or that? And we order it, and I think it works out good.
So we really go through great lengths to ensure food safety for our students. And Chef Mark, can you tell us how students get to, how they let us know that they have food allergens? And I know that it goes through your office and then goes through our system. Could you speak a little bit about how that happens for students?
Excuse me. Actually, the process on that, I usually get notified by health services or Erika Novello down here. There is a form online, and then we actually meet with the student. Gayle's usually involved in that meeting as well. We then take the student to the dining halls. We meet with the chefs at that point, and we explain the allergy out and what's happening and what they need to avoid. The chefs, the managers, everybody's on board. Usually works out pretty well. We haven't had any problems thus far with any of the forms. And we probably get about, this year's been a little light on the students. It seems like we're probably around 12 or so total, but anybody that has an allergy, please let us know. And we're on that too, you know, so we just need to know.
And Fred, could you share your experience with preparing food for some of the students with allergens?
Absolutely. Going first with net nutrition, we were talking about what another wonderful tool that is. And again, something was introduced to dining with a great big fear, you know, that this was going to be something we couldn't do. But again, with all the help we get from droppers, you know, there are people that are over there on a daily basis, filtering out allergens, looking at ingredients, going through every nutritional value of everything that we use and putting it in our system. It allows and affords the students to grab their smartphones and actually filter out their meal with the touch of a button in any dining hall, so that if they have a particular allergy, they can basically identify, without going through the whole menu, the system will identify all the allergens and tell them what they can eat. As much as like before net nutrition, when a student came into a dining hall, we would encourage them not to walk in and say, what can I eat in here? You know, it would be more like, what can I eat in here? There's plenty of choices. And most of the students are wonderful that way. They come in and they go about their business. We really have to push, like Chef Mark said, to get people to make us aware of their allergies, because a lot of the students will come here and just quietly go about their day and try to identify the things that they can eat, and they do a great job at that. But sometimes they need a little help, you know, to get a more nutritional meal. They may need a little push, you know, in that direction. We've had of the most serious of all allergies, and this was at the forefront of pioneering awareness on allergies on Williams College campus. I've been here only 10 years, and for 6 of those years, it was pretty routine what we did. You know, we got the meals prepared, and there wasn't a whole lot of allergen to be concerned about. Nuts were the big one, as they always have been. But, you know, our signs were pretty simple. They just kind of depicted what the meal was, and as long as you had a vegetarian item of some sort out there, that was sufficient. But then a student came to campus with his parents back in 2010 and had a pretty serious allergy, where parts per million of either eggs or milk would literally kill this person. And our charge became that we had to, prepare meals for the student, keep him healthy, keep him out of the hospital, and let him have a college experience like every other student. And the big fear for him and his parents was being dropped off at Williams College and not knowing how he was going to fare with dining and how he was going to be able to eat. And that became a non-issue immediately. Meeting after meeting was held. Allergy-free zones were developed in every unit. First cooks were charged with making the meal for these students so that the liability wasn't spread. This student brought a whole new awareness of what allergies really are to Williams College. And it took a little bit of time for people to embrace how serious allergies really are to some students. Fortunately for this student, he was able to go out to Stanford, enroll in a program that was able to pretty much cure him of a lifelong, to this point, allergy, where he's able to now, he's graduated from Williams, but before he graduated, he was able to come back here and actually walk through the lines and take food from the lines like all the rest of the students. They actually, through micro amounts of the product that he was allergic to, they built his immunity. So there is help out there for people with severe allergies. And of course, the awareness all starts here. Make your nutritionist aware that you have a problem, bring it to dining, and dining will handle it from there. And if you require, specific care, we're there to help you.
And with that too, we initiated AllerTrain for all of our dining staff, and what you spoke to about the severe allergy with one of our students also speaks to the program that we introduced, Menu Try Info, and Bob was instrumental in getting that program on board through, I believe, the connection with that student's family. Is that correct, Bob? So if you'd like to tell us a little bit about that.
We are a member of a national organization that's focused on food allergy research, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of that collegiate group. I have attended several of the national summits, and we're so far ahead of the curve because of that. Gayle referred to a program called Menu Try Info, and it allows each one of our staff to go through a series of training that would focus on, a certain allergen and the importance of what that means, or just help us understand what does the term celiac mean. So we're very fortunate, and again, I think when Chef Mark made the statement about we learn so much from our students, this is a perfect example.
So I think this will be a good time for the question and answer session. We have any questions from, yes, Joey.
Hi, you told us about the Student Food Committee, and that seems like a wonderful program to give the students a voice and share ideas with the dining service department. Can you tell us how would academic staff, faculty, and other staff members in our community share thoughts and ideas with the department?
Email.
Very good.
It's an excellent question.
One of the things that, and I'll look at Joey because he's one of our managers in the dining hall at Mission Park. Any of the managers, some people might think this is kind of corny, but everyone has a name tag, and the managers have a gold name tag. That's like the first clue. We also have this simple policy. When you walk into a dining hall, if you see a tall hat, that's a chef. So most likely, if you have an allergy, either that manager or that chef is going to be able to help. And then so on and so forth. I mean, we are very clear about our professional part at Williams. And I'll take this opportunity knowing that there's a lot of people out there from various parts, Lee Snack Bar, 82 Grill, Driscoll, Mission, Grab and Go, and Catering, to thank you for really making this possible. Because all these things that we talk about, you've embraced and have really made this happen.
Something to kind of go along with that, though, I know that Tyler talked a lot about his success with the student food committee. In my personal experience, we've had, so Real Food Williams and other student sustainability efforts have had some good success in communicating with dining services, but we haven't had the same ease of success. While it may be really easy to get goldfish in every single dining hall, there has not been the same ease in getting the grass-fed beef or getting the fair trade bananas. So that's just another voice that might not be as readily
heard, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you source all your food. I know some larger institutions have a program where you just type in the recipe or something and it'll source everything. And I'm wondering if that makes ordering from individual farms a lot more difficult, and if there's a way that you know of that can make this easier and more cost-effective and efficient.
It's actually set up in our food service system. We have a system called Seaboard. Diane Noyes-Tavani is one of our people that's in charge of that. And she actually has the items labeled that are in the recipes, and they're denoted by either a local or through the U.S. Food site or the Ginsburg site. So that's how the ordering will go. If we have a special event and something like Earth Day or something like that, we order direct usually from the farmers. I usually talk to the farmers in advance and say, we need this, we need that, we need ground beef, we need the lamb or whatever it may be. And then we set it up that way, and it usually works pretty well. We can do pre-orders as well, but the chefs are pretty much on board with that at this point. Does that help?
Yeah, so you can order locally through the system, or no?
Yes, yes, you can.
Just a little more detail on this system. The system has thousands of recipes, and as Chef mentioned, Diane has worked with Real Food Williams folks to really put the attributes that are important to us. Fair trade, organic, there's several of them. Without this system, we wouldn't be able to get any pulse on how much are we spending. Without this system, we wouldn't be able to get into that recipe file and do the great things that Erika spoke about. And also without this system, we wouldn't have historical data. So one of the things about that is we just tried to figure out, coming back from winter study, how many students would actually dine at Driscoll and at Mission. Those were the two dining halls we opened up first, and we were off by like 10 students. So this historical data is real important. It's so important that it also is part of what tells us we need to produce. So even though it's going through a computer system that's producing a recipe, it's also telling the chef, you need to buy these items. And the chef now has the power to say, well, I know I can buy these items from this source. So an example of that, today I saw at the faculty house that the chef bought beets, and those beets came from a farm in Vermont. And I know there's examples in the student dining areas, but it's that system called Seaboard Food Service Suites that actually generates that data.
How do you accommodate students whose religious traditions or national country of origin sort of require that their food be prepared in a certain way, or the food preparation has to be done maybe in a non-mass-produced way? Is that sort of, is the intake similar to how you accommodate students with allergies, for example?
Right now, we currently have a pretty good Muslim population who are under halal guidelines, and we try and incorporate that into our menus on a nightly and daily basis. We have it cycled out, and the students are aware of where that product is. And that's at Mission, Driscoll, and Peresky as well. So it works out pretty well. On the kosher end, we have done kosher meals on occasion. There hasn't been a huge call for it because it's not a orthodox type calling or something like that. So it works out pretty well though. Anything besides that, I'm not sure. We haven't really got into a whole lot.
And we do have online capability. So if a student wants a kosher grab and go, they can actually go online, fill out this form, and it gets sent to us so that it's ready. It's a, part of our website goes through so many different series of I guess, critical issues that special dietary requirements or requests are actually made that way.
You mentioned how you have to kind of pick different recipes based on whether they're healthy, and then students who don't choose healthy options as often. So how do you strike a balance between promoting healthy eating on campus while also providing the more kind of just junk food recipes that some students prefer?
Late night.
Would you like to tackle that question, Erika?
I guess just as far as when I'm looking at the menus, I just, I can understand, how do you balance that? How do you do that? And, I can't really explain it more specifically than making sure there are options for everyone. And I mean, each day there is an option for someone who wants to eat healthy and someone who wants to eat less healthy. And by less healthy, that's probably the more traditional foods that maybe have been around for a while, like it's the potato bowl or something, like a lot of those types of items. But I guess in terms of promoting healthy eating, I think that's kind of going to continue to be a slow progression. I know with a lot of the recipes that I'm incorporating I would consider healthy, and so the promotion for healthy eating I personally see as something that's going to be a slow progression, not completely phasing out less nutritious items, but maybe more and more healthy while maintaining some less nutritious. I don't know if I really answered your question, but yeah.
Well, I guess I have a similar kind of question. I'm sorry if I had to run out, so I hope it wasn't asked already. But I was thinking there's a kind of push-me-pull-you thing going on in dining where, on the one hand, like you want some, there'll be demand for all boneless buffalo wings all the time. and it seems like, and you're saying, well, we respond to those, we really try to respond to what students want. But then there also feels like there's a way in which you see yourself as educating the palates of students and of the community. Like you want to train people to eat differently in some way. And I guess it's the and I think you touched on this a little bit, Erika, but how do you, that is, do you see yourselves as having, in a way, a sort of educational mission around food that isn't just, you know, buying sustainably or, you know, doing that kind of thing, but actually kind of pushing students in a direction or pushing the community in a direction of healthy eating? And if so, how do you do that? You say, well, is it just by offering more things? People choose better things?
I guess are you asking, do we do any like more maybe formal educational, like do we put out information?
Do you see yourself as having a mission that's partly to, not just to respond to what people want, but also to kind of affect what people want, I guess?
I think part of the, if you don't mind me chiming in.
Sure.
I don't think we're going in one certain direction. I think a long time ago when I started here, all our dining halls had all the same menus across the board. I mean, everybody had chicken parm at night, Mission Park, Driscoll, you know, and then we got away from that where everybody developed their own menus and kind of gave the students more of a variety, you know, for healthy kids. You know, they had a menu they could pick from options. Driscoll developed Meatless Mondays. I don't think we're, don't quote me if I'm wrong, trying to push anybody into a healthy state of mind. I think we're just trying to offer more options with Lee After Dark and a snack bar. I think there's a Eco Cafe, Grab and Go. I think we're just trying to broaden our offerings for the students to give them more variety for them to pick from, if that answers your question.
Yeah. I think I also can provide a little like student perspective on that. I think that you do have to listen to what the students want. So like, I remember one student dining meeting, we had, you know, we're talking about burgers versus chicken, and some people wanted more chicken, some people wanted more burgers. And at some level, you know, the conversation came down to, well, when you have hamburgers at Moresi, it's hundreds more people are eating that compared to any other entree they serve. Or like one day last semester, the worker who serves the mashed potato bowls was sick and just didn't happen at Mission one day. And I have never been contacted by more students in a 24-hour period saying like, where was the mashed potato bowl? But I guess probably coming from the more unhealthy eating side, studying 4 years at Williams, just being exposed to the healthier options that they have has definitely transitioned, been some transition for me to like eating healthier and like just kind of seeing it there and having these conversations. You do, you know, there's kind of like an implicit focus that does make you think about what you're eating.
Any other questions?
I was speaking of a variety of options, and I know there's if you guys, the chefs, like feel like there's enough variety for you guys to like stay interested in the cooking, I'm just curious about that.
I feel absolutely. We have some good purveyors out there. We have all the ingredients right at our fingertips. And, you know, I know these guys love it when we're in season and we have the nice zucchini and the bake shops doing their thing with that as well. You know, they're taking zucchini, not this year, but the year before. They took zucchini and they actually shredded it all, vacuum packed it, and then froze it so they could use it in the tea bread so you guys could enjoy that during the school year when you get back. We also did some pickled vegetables one year as well. You know, there's some great items out there. We love working with the quality goods. I think Williams has the best quality on meats and vegetables and everything going around too, you know. And our staff does a great job with it. I can't say enough about our staff. Incredible, you know. We have robo coops now, which are food processors, so that makes it a little easier on them as well. And some of our farmers will prepare some of the items as well, so that works out pretty good too. But I'm sure these guys can speak more to that as well.
If you're asking if we like enjoy cooking each day, I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't like it. I mean, I like what I do each day, and for me to come in here and say that I don't like this anymore, then, you know, that's when I move on. But I think everybody here likes doing what they're doing. I mean, everybody comes in, they have a pretty good attitude. We all interact with the students very well. I mean, the challenges for us for different menus, you know, there's not, I think we introduced a lot of Indian food this year, and I think we met with some Asian students, which we have some challenges. I had to do some Asian cooking, and I'm excited to look forward to that challenge. You know, I'm not a great Asian cook myself, but we do have some great Asian cooks on campus that we can learn from and work with the students closely. So if you're asking if we like our job, yes.
All right. Well, I think on that note, thank you very much, panelists.